I got to a point that I started studying different religions. So I started studying like Buddhism, Taoism. I didn't study a ton of Judaism because I knew that, as a man, I don't really think you can accept Judaism. Like I think you have to be born into it. So I didn't go too deep into that. And I learned a little bit about Islam at this point, but not much, right? Because I had grown up with a few Muslims, so it was there, but it wasn't something that was prevalent. And due to who I was actually, working with at the time, I was working under the mentorship of a legend in the sales training space, this guy named Grant Cardone. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's very, very big in the sales training. Now he's big into real estate. So I had just turned 21. I was working for Grant Cardone, started his Canadian office with a couple buddies at the time. And Grant's a very big Scientologist. So I heard a lot of good things, funny enough, about Scientology. There's a video of him literally saying, "Hey, Scientology is responsible for 95% of my success." And Canyon, I'm a 21-year-old young, ambitious, hungry kid looking for answers, and this guy worth a couple $100 million is saying Scientology is responsible for his success. So I ended up actually joining Scientology, and I got really, really deep, and I actually felt like I found the answers. And a lot of Scientologists feel this way. And I really, really felt like I found all the answers because it felt like there was an explanation or something I could reference, a book or something for every question I had. And this was the first religion that I had studied that had an answer for everything. Prior to that, I was always left with that itch. Fast forward a few years, I was really deep into Scientology. It's a religion that you actually have to spend money to kind of move up the ranks. So I was about $250,000 deep into Scientology, and I had moved to LA. I was again, I'm Canadian, but I was in LA for a few months. I was staying in Pasadena with some great Scientologists that I met. The husband was Canadian, and we met on a boat in Aruba on a Scientology cruise. And he passingly said, "If you ever want to come to LA, you're always welcome to stay at my place." So I actually hit him up, and big shout out to him for letting me crash there. But anyways, I'm in Pasadena. I'm studying Scientology, and I get to the curriculum, because that's kind of how they present it, where you start learning about aliens and the Galactic Confederation and all this crazy stuff that I really did not resonate with, and it felt more like a science fiction book than a religion at that point. So I had made the decision. It was a very tough decision because everybody around me was also a Scientologist. The guys that I looked up to were all Scientologists. I had made the decision to just call it a quits. This isn't for me. I'm not resonating with it. No disrespect to obviously any Scientologists and their beliefs, but it just wasn't for me, right? It was something that didn't resonate for me. So I ended up moving all the way back home to Ontario. And that's really where the journey of Islam started for me, where it really started to hit home. So one of my close friends, Shahan, I was working with him, and we were running a door-to-door sales team. And all the guys were complaining because they were about to start Ramadan. And doing door-to-door and Ramadan don't really go hand in hand because it's tough to be outside all day knocking in the sun when you're fasting. So I was like, you know what? If these guys are going to do it and I'm their leader, why not do it with them? So I actually, before I accepted Islam, I was 25 years old at this time, turning 26. I actually practiced Ramadan. I did the entire thing minus the praying. And, I had this very spiritual moment. I listened to your Revert story, about how when you were in the mosque in Pakistan, you just felt that that connection. You felt just that deep peace. So there was one afternoon where I was about 20 days into my first Ramadan ever. And I had this moment where I just wanted to cheat. I wanted to drink water. I was so parched. Food was easy, but the water was tough. So I actually went to go reach for my water bottle, and I just felt this command almost that was just like a no, like it stopped me from doing it. And I didn't end up, drinking the water bottle. I got through. And I remember talking to Shahan about it, and I'm like, man, this was a really like weird experience. Like I can't really describe. I didn't hear something. I felt something. And it's a very surreal thing to experience. So that was on my mind, right? But I still at that point wasn't ready. Shahan gifted me, there's the clear Quran, right? The clear Quran, if you're pronouncing it properly. But I picked it up. I read a little bit, but there was so much just, God, God, God. There was all this God, and I wasn't at that point in my life to be able to accept it. So I put it down, I stopped reading it, and I just continued living my life. And about a year later, I was like, you know what? It's Ramadan again. Let me just do it again with the boys. Like, it was actually pretty cool last year. Let me do it again. So I did the Ramadan again. No spiritual experiences this time. However, I felt a different level of peace that I genuinely have never felt before. I was like, this is a very, and if you look into it, and this is, one of the many miracles of Islam, fasting has so many benefits. Like, and I know you know what I mean. Like, you just feel so clean. You feel so pure. You feel so good after fasting, and the discipline that's required in order to do so. So that second Ramadan was incredible. There was no, defining spiritual moment, but the overall process was just a very like cleansing thing. And I started grilling my friend Shahan in classic, Andrew fashion. I started grilling him with a bunch of questions about Islam. And, shout out to him. He was doing a really good job of answering them. But, he was just like, man, you know what? I'm not a scholar. Like, I didn't study this.